Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the award-winning Cotton Companion podcast. It's been an interesting 2 weeks since we last visited with you. There's been a little bit of everything out there, ranging from more dicamba news to the continued ups and downs in the market to a rapidly maturing cotton crop. And oh yeah, we've as we're recording right now, we've got two big storms heading directly for the lower mid-south, certainly as we speak. Obviously, we've got quite a bit of things to discuss in this, the 78th episode of the Cotton Companion. I'm Jim Steadman, Senior Editor of Cotton Grower, and as always, I'm joined by Cotton Grower Editor Frank Giles. Frank, I'm going to tell you, it's a little strange to see these projected hurricane tracks for two storms, and neither one of them seem to involve Florida.
Yeah, we successfully dodged these two, and you look at that map and the two storms coming across there, and if anything, exemplifies 2020, that's it. So we're certainly happy not to have them here in Florida, but we're thinking about friends and family in Louisiana and Texas that will be impacted. I have a brother and sister-in-law that live in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and they're making plans to evacuate. They're not looking to ride out a Category 3 storm at 10 feet above sea level. So they're making the wise decision and hitting the road.
Well, we're keeping our fingers crossed that they stay safe in all of this. We've got a busy program, and joining us today for part of our discussion is going to be Dr. Don Shurley, who's a marketing and policy analyst, and he's also Professor Emeritus of Agricultural Economics at the University of Georgia, based there in Tifton. And it's been a while since Don's been able to join us. He's a good source. He's very knowledgeable in the market, and we certainly look forward to bringing you that segment. But now, before we get started, let's hear a short message from our sponsor, Phytogen.
Phytogen is pleased to sponsor the Cotton Companion, bringing you the latest news to help you thrive all season long.
Well, as always, a big thanks to the folks at Phytogen for sponsoring the Cotton Companion podcast. And now we're going to take a few minutes and turn things over to our colleague, Robin Sickberg, for a custom content interview with Phytogen Cotton Development Specialist, Ben Benton.
Hello, I'm Robin Sickberg, Custom Content Editor for Meister Media Worldwide, publisher of Cotton Grower Magazine. My guest on the program today, again, is Ben Benton, Phytogen Cotton Development Specialist in Kansas and the Texas and Oklahoma Panhandles. Welcome back to the program, Ben.
Glad to be here, Robin.
Our last interview, we talked about Kansas and its varying growing conditions. And this time I want to talk about the Texas Panhandle, including Oklahoma, since you handle that area. So what kind of information can you give us about what you saw this season in those areas?
You bet, Robin. Well, similar to Southwest Kansas, the northern Texas Panhandle is dominated by irrigated cotton that's also shared with corn. We got to manage for earliness in those areas. We did have a tougher spring in all these areas, really from Lubbock all the way up to Amarillo and north of the Panhandle from there. Very little of the dryland crop has survived. We just couldn't get a rain where we needed it. And again, that spans the majority of the region of the Texas Panhandle. And then we followed that up with a really bad windy day in June that took out a lot of dryland acres and even some irrigated acres and set that crop back. But overall, we've had some rain now, and what is still out there is really starting to turn a corner and look good.
Never a dull moment. What varieties did you see that you're particularly excited about this season?
The main one I mentioned is Phytogen 394W3FE. This variety was bred specifically for the kind of the Lubbock to Amarillo area, dominated by where you got to have verticillium wilt tolerance. And this is our new verticillium wilt champion. Really does a great job. Starting at the beginning of the season, this thing comes up like gangbusters. It really emerges strong. And in this part of the world, we've just got to have a variety that'll establish itself and do really well. And the Phytogen lineup really is strong at that. This is an early mid variety with excellent storm tolerance, and it's really easy to manage. So it's able to go behind some of those corn acres and not get away from guys where there's plenty of fertility and water. And then, of course, it's got, like all enlist varieties, it's got bacterial blight resistance, and this one's even got root knot nematode resistance. So it's a strong overall package for this area. The other two that we bracket that with, our early variety that we use is Phytogen 250 W3FE. Really makes a nice early complement, and it's also got verticillium wilt tolerance and bacterial blight. And then finally, our early mid variety, Phytogen 350 W3FE, is probably our number one planted variety out in this area. It goes dry lands to irrigated. We really use it on a lot of different acres, and it's got a lot of yield potential across the whole region.
Well, that's excellent information. Thanks for sharing those varieties, Ben. And if growers want to get more information, as always, they can go to phytogen.com. Thank you so much for coming back on the program.
Certainly, glad to be here.
Well, thanks, Robin, and thank you, Ben, for that interview segment. Before we bring Don Shurley into our virtual studio, there is a quick update on the ongoing dicamba saga that we want to touch on briefly. Frank, can you kind of fill us in on that?
Yes, the dicamba drama continues. So a little bit of minor news. On August 17th, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals denied a petition by Bayer, BASF, and Corteva to overturn the original June 3rd ruling that vacated the registrations for Extendimax, Ingenia, and Fexapam dicamba herbicides. The companies had asked for this review of the original decision, citing that the judgment was unfair, unconstitutional, and required a full judicial review. But that, of course, was denied by the court. Should the companies decide to take it on up higher or up the ladder, the next stop would be the Supreme Court. Jim, I'm not sure they would go there. Maybe just focus on those new labels. What's your thoughts?
Well, let's think at this point that that's probably the case. I think the re-registration is probably of more importance at this point, and certainly more timely, because there's no guarantees how quickly you could get a case heard before the U.S. Supreme Court at this point. So I would think they gave it a good shot, and they made their arguments, but let's move on and see what we can and can't do with these products next year.
Absolutely. The Cotton Board recently held its 2020 annual meeting, and they voted on their 2021 budget for Cotton Incorporated and allocated $80 million. They have submitted this budget proposal to the Secretary of Ag for approval. This is about $8 million less than last year's budget. The 2021 budget remains focused on key areas of sustainability, product innovation, farm profitability, all important these days, cotton seed value, and lint contamination. The Cotton Inc.'s largest cut of the budget will come from their consumer marketing.
Well, thanks, Frank. And now, as we mentioned earlier, we'd like to welcome Dr. Don Shurley, Professor Emeritus of Agricultural Economics for the University of Georgia, to the virtual Cotton Companion studio. Don, thanks for taking time to join us today. It's been a while since we've had a chance to visit. How have you been, and how have you been spending these last 5 months?
Well, we were supposed to be sheltered in, right? So the politically correct answer is that I've been following all instructions. But I've been fine sheltering in, and I also had 2 courses that were had to be switched and taught online, and that ended up to be a tremendous amount of extra work. But we got through it. Everybody's safe and sound, both the students and my family and myself. So, still keeping busy, and I appreciate y'all inviting me back and having the opportunity to be back on the program. It's an honor to do it.
Well, we're definitely happy to have you back. Are you still the classes you're teaching? Are you doing those in person, or are you still doing those virtually?
We're in person right now.
Okay.
Some classes have gone kind of a mix between face-to-face and online, and some have gone completely online. But fortunately, my 2 classes, we were able to go both completely face-to-face. So it's working out good, and I'm thankful that we were able to get it done that way.
Sounds great. Well, there are a number of things we want to talk with you about today. And let's start with the latest crop progress report that was issued yesterday afternoon. That's August 24th. what did we find out from this week's report? Where is the crop looking promising, and where isn't it looking promising right now?
Well, the crop report really, I mean, the conditions are, at least in my opinion, are really a mixed bag. And you look at various things that have been written about it. For example, the Texas crop in the latest report was 29% good to excellent. That compares to only 27% the week before. So we're up 2 percentage points there. But 37% of that Texas crop is rated poor to very poor, and that compares to 33 a week earlier. So that's a mixed bag. I mean, the crop is doing better in some areas, obviously, but not in others. So overall, I wouldn't call that a very good report for overall in terms of Texas. Even if you look at the U.S. as a whole, which is obviously driven a lot by the Texas numbers, but if you look at the U.S. as a whole, 46% was rated good to excellent compared to 45 the week before. That's a little bit of an uptick, but again, 25% was rated poor to very poor compared to 22% a week earlier. So it's doing well, but again, it's a mixed bag. So I would interpret that as it's doing better in some areas and not as good in others.
Sure. Now, being there in Georgia, particularly there in that Tifton area, how's the crop, in your opinion, how's the crop looking in that area?
Our crop is looking very, very good. And we've had more rain this week. As y'all might recall, we have a tendency, and it's not completely uncommon for us to plant a lot of cotton. Well, not a lot, but a decent amount of cotton in the month of June. That's not uncommon for us at all. It happens every year. So the rain that we're getting here later in the season is going to be a tremendous help to that late planted crop. And the crop overall looks very well. I think latest crop production numbers from USDA this month showed us that a little over 2 bales, over 1,000 pounds per acre. So, you were asking where the crop looks good and where it doesn't. Again, Texas is a mixed bag, and the market's reacting to that. There are quite a number of states, and we won't go through the list. There's quite a number of states where at least 10 to 15% is in that poor to very poor. So in a lot of states, you've got a portion of that crop that just continues not to do well at all. But if you look here in the Southeast, I'd say overall the Southeast is probably in the best condition of anybody. North Carolina might be a little bit of an exception, but overall the Southeast crop looks very strong, I think.
Sounds good. Well, the market, let's take a look at it for a minute, because it still seems to be dancing back and forth depending on the week. The August supply demand report came out about 2 weeks ago, and it was still on the bearish side. What kind of movement have we been dealing with in terms of the market? Are we settling into a comfort zone with prices right now? And are there any bullish signs out there that people can sort of hang on to?
Well, right now, the way the market has really ticked up the last week or so. If we were to have been doing this podcast a week or two ago, I would say the market's in that comfort zone. And by that, I mean somewhere in that 61 to 63 cent area. But we've broken through 65 now. We were at close to 66 yesterday before the market closed. I think the market's trying to build some potential based on this mixed bag of a crop report, as I said, and also the storms that we've got still got Laura to come in later this week. So the market's building building some strength based on those unknowns. But, you talked about a comfort zone, and, I'm trying not to be pessimistic with growers. I try my best not to do that, but I want to remind them of this. The market, first of all, reacts to what it thinks is going to happen. Okay, we don't know what this U.S. crop's going to do. We don't know what the Texas crop is going to do. It's better in some respects. It's not better as it was a week ago in other respects. And we've had 2 storms. We've had Marco come ashore now, and now we're got Laura coming in. The market has strengthened based on what it anticipates will happen. And then the market will adjust based on what actually happens this week and next week. So the market's showing some strength, but I want to remind growers that the market giveth and it taketh away. So it's showing some strength right now, and hopefully that's going to be sustained as we get further into harvest. But everything's riding on the crop and the export reports.
Very good. Well, Don, what's the world situation look like right now?
The demand or use continues to be an issue. I'm looking here at the August numbers, and world use is down to just barely over 113 million bales now. And what happens, and unfortunately this is becoming a habit, whenever the USDA reports come out, each month kind of takes more and more of a cut out of the use. And so, in other words, the demand has gotten weaker based on the numbers over time. And, what used to be 116 million bale use, for example, now is down to just over 113. So the market has weakened, and we all know why. It's because of the COVID and other problems associated with that as part of the reason. But the use continues to be a problem, and production's going to be, 4.5 million bales more than use this year. So we're going to continue to build stocks. So those are all issues, and that's my concern right now. So the smaller U.S. crop is giving us some strength right now, or the uncertainty with the U.S. crop. And the fact that our export sales this past week were a great report. That's given us some strength right now, but we still got some challenges as we look down the road.
Good deal. Staying on the global stage, have you been following the flooding in China, and what, if any, impact is that having on cotton production there and textile facilities? It's been a pretty nasty flood.
Yeah, actually, if you look back, the flooding in China has been in the news really since at least mid-July. They've had problems and issues over there with flooding. I read one report where I think 3 dams had been breached. So the excessive rainfall and flooding in China has been in the news for over a month. But I haven't seen or read anything specific to cotton. I have seen some news reports about some factories and plants being damaged and being shut down, and losses associated with that. And other reports that said that the flooding was going to cause some delay in China, successfully continuing to try to manage the COVID-19 situation. So I haven't seen anything that specifically relates to cotton. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the current numbers in terms of China's production and so forth, those numbers are pretty much the same as, like the August number was the same as the July number. So USDA is not showing any reduction in China's cotton production yet. So, there is flooding going on, but nothing specific in terms of impacts on cotton.
Well, Don, I've got one last question for you. Now, it's a question that I know you get asked a lot from growers and folks in your area. If I'm a cotton grower right now and I'm still hanging on to a little bit of last year's crop and I've got a promising crop in the field right now, what should I be looking for and what should I be doing in terms of marketing right now? Can you kind of walk me through some of those options?
There is some old crop still out there. One of the things that concerns me, and I've been watching this, our basis, even here in the Southeast, where we typically run a fairly strong basis, our basis has just really fallen out. If I recall the numbers, our current basis is about 350 points under October. There was a time there for several years where we ran a strong positive basis here in the Southeast, but that has disappeared. And even though the market is showing some strength, the weak basis is really going to take a hit on that. And if I were a grower and still had some of last year's crop, if the quality is good and if you can get a good basis quote on that, then I would be tempted to move at least half of that on this rally that we've got going right now. I just don't see any reason not to, particularly if the quality is good, given the storms that we've got coming in this week and the concerns that might have on the quality of the Delta crop. If you've got some of last year's crop and it's got good quality, if you're able to get a good basis quote and a good quote on that, I would certainly take advantage of this rally that we've got going on right now.
Okay, because I don't think there's any indication of the way the market has been going this year. No indication we're gonna jump up anywhere near 70 at this point. So take advantage of what's being offered, basically, correct?
Well, on at least part of the crop, yes. I mean, This is a rally. This is a rally in price that we have been hoping for. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, growers have been looking for an opportunity for something stronger. Well, here it is. Mm-hmm. And if you still got some of last year's crop and missed the better market opportunities on that, here's a chance to at least let some of it go on this rally that we've got going right now.
Well, Don, with that, we're going to wrap this discussion up for this segment in this episode. I certainly appreciate you and thank you for taking time to join us today. It's been great having you back on the Cotton Companion, and let's make sure we can do this again sometime soon.
Well, it's my pleasure. Like I said, it's an honor to do it. I appreciate everything that you guys do, and keep in touch. I'm glad to be on the program anytime.
That's great. Well, we're going to count on you to keep that South Georgia crop in good shape.
Looks good right now.
Well, that pretty much wraps up another episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to thank again Dr. Don Shurley for joining us in our virtual studio today. And thanks to the folks at Phytogen for sponsoring us. And thank you, dear listeners, for joining us. If you like what you hear on the Cotton Companion, please be sure to spread the word and tell your farmer friends about this podcast. And here's how you do it.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion, or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
A quick note, our August-September issue is now at the printer and should be hitting your mailboxes here in a few weeks, so please be sure to watch for that. This podcast is produced by Tyler Hatch and Kim Henderson, our talented colleagues back at the mothership Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. My name is Jim Steadman. I'll be back with you here in a few weeks for the next episode of the Cotton Companion. And for now, on behalf of my own Cotton Companion, Frank Giles, we wish you all the best and stay safe.
Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God made a farmer. Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God made a farmer.
Phytogen thanks you for listening to this edition of the Cotton Companion. To learn how you can thrive with Phytogen, go to phytogen.com.